In this model, we'll talk about the role and functions of English in Europe. We cannot ignore the role European Union has played in the popularity of English in Europe. When European Union was established, इसको फिर कर लें please.
Come on in. This is assignment. Dear standby. Action please.
In this module, we'll talk about the role and status of English in Europe. When talking about English in Europe, we cannot ignore the role European Union has played in its popularity. When the European Union was established, it had 11 official languages. Gradually, the number was increased to 23. However, 3 dominant languages emerged as the most powerful languages of European Union. Out of these 3 languages, the biggest language, that is English, emerged as the European lingua franca. And this happened by the end of the 20th century. So earlier, it wasn't English which was used as a lingua franca, but by the time we reached the end of the 20th century, English became the de facto lingua franca in Europe. Because of its role and status in the European Union, it is often linked with better socio-economic opportunities by the European youth. We have opposing positions on the use of English by European Union and also in Europe at large. There are some scholars who believe that why everybody should learn English. In fact, all the members of the European Union should learn each other's language. However, there are other scholars who believe that to cut down on the cost and time spent on translation, only English should be declared as the official language of the European Union. One question which is closely linked with the spread and popularity of English in Europe is whether or not English can express the identities of its European speakers. Again, there are some scholars who believe that the Europeans do not have to depend on English as an identity marker, and their own first languages can continue to serve at the purpose of demonstrating their identity. However, we see that with the developing scope of English in Europe, it is being used at least by the youth to express their emotional identities through code mixing and code switching. So we see such phrases being used in Europe now. The examples we have are from German, the use of English by Germans, let's say, and here we see code mixing between German and English. So we have phrases like telephone junkie and metal fan and Drogen freak being used by the German youth. Another important political development in Europe, which is likely to influence the role and status of English in Europe, is Brexit. That is the exit of Britain from the European Union. There are several questions which are linked with the exit of Britain from European Union. For example, its role and status in European Union itself and in Europe at large, not only in terms of its functions in society, its social functions, but also its role in education. The question that comes to people's mind is, with the departure of an important state which was involved in determining and supporting the standards for the teaching of foreign languages in Europe, what will be the status of the education vis-a-vis teaching foreign languages, and also the status of the teaching and learning of English in Europe. So, Brexit, the exit of Britain from the European Union, is likely to influence the use, the functions and role of English in Europe. It is also being assumed that perhaps this exit of Britain from European Union will actually clear the space for an authentic European English. that with the British Standard English not being there to control the use of English by Europeans, there will emerge an authentic European English, and it will be used by the members of European Union as a second language, the way it is used in many outer circle countries, and not only by members of the European Union but by European population at large. And this language, this European English, not the British Standard English, with the exit of Britain from the European Union, the emerging European English will be used as a linked language among the members of the European Union. With increasing use of increasing use of English by the Europeans, the nativization of English is also likely to occur. English, if we look closely, has these three roles in Europe. It is used by some countries as a native language, of course, for example, Britain. It is used as a foreign language in many other European countries, and it is also used as an international language. So because of these three roles that English plays in Europe, it is likely that a lot of nativization of English will take place, and adaptations of English will, of course, also take place. And these innovation adaptations show a pure regional European influence. So we may come across words which are common in different European languages, and then also words which are distinct to different European countries. In European English, we can see European English performing several functions for Europeans. For example, it can be used as an intra-European communication language. So when different European countries communicate with each other, they can use English as a common language. It can also have very distinctly European uses. So in this way, de-Americanization or de-Englishization of English will take place in Europe, when it will be used to express functions or to perform functions which are unique to Europe only and cannot be found in America or other native English-speaking countries. This emergence of authentic European English and nativization of English, or the use of English as a second language, where these European countries will also become a part of the outer circle, all this will play a very important role in the spread of English in Europe and the spread of English generally. So we see that the role and status of English in Europe, which is emphasized by its official status as a European Union language, all this is going to play a very important role in the spread of English.